Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2015 January class White Coat Ceremony. Welcome everyone, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and you can be seated. All right, I'd like to begin today with introducing a very special guest, the Baroness Howells of St. David's, who is a distinguished Grenadian and the only Grenadian in the House of Lords. She has had a long relationship with St. George's University, not least through her being on the Board of Trustees of the St. George's UK Trust and also on the board.
Thank you, and students. Special day me, and I told them about my doctorate and how I joined the university world. My grandson said, "Grandma, some of us have to work for it." I can tell you he is no longer named in my will. For a young man who told me at 16 that all he wanted to do was be a window cleaner, who is now a quantity surveyor and one who's worked on the Shard. So what could I say? Some of us have worked for it. Nevertheless, I feel Northumbria a special love for this place because I can now, the day I improve on my entry into the book that tells you who the lords are, I'll be able to put Northumbria down, and that's coming next year. 2050, you absolutely is going to have the best of both worlds. I'm very happy.
I'm practicing in Salem, Oregon on the West Coast, and I'm also acting as a medical director of the surgical services at Salem Health. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Qualified medical doctors. Delighted. Creating new knowledge and sharing it are central to our purpose as a university. Region, own interests and personal strengths. The positive contribution that you can make to Newcastle, Gateshead and the wider region of the North East is enormous, and I encourage you to engage with our local communities whenever you can. Our hope is that your experience on the Keith B. Taylor Global Scholar Programme will be both life-changing and also exhilarating. So I'm confident that today marks the beginning of a rewarding new phase in your lives. I wish you every success in your studies both at Northumbria and St. George's Universities and in your future medical careers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Waithe. Now I'd like to take a few minutes to, as you see in your program, recognize the Gold Humanism Honor Society inductees. The Arnold P. Gold Foundation was created, the White Coat Ceremony in 1993, to promote humanism in medicine. St. George's University of Medicine initiated its own White Coat Ceremony in 1996, long before many other U.S. medical schools. In 2003, the Gold Foundation founded the Gold Humanism Honor Society, which is an international society dedicated to the promotion of humanism, professionalism, and ethics in medical practice and education. SGU annually inducts new members into its chapter of Gold Humanism Honor Society. SGU's chapter of Gold Humanism Honor Society envisioned and established the Humanitarian Student Organization in 2009, through which pre-clinical students can engage in service activities for their communities with support from the Gold Foundation. So please note that the 2015 member names are listed in the program with you. These inductees are presently doing their fourth-year rotations, and we honor their embodiment of Gold Humanism Honor Society ideals and their efforts to provide humane, caring, patient care. I just offer a few words of encouragement to all of you in the context of this special event. First of all, I must reflect on my own journey and my own experiences I sat to, like you all, here at this white coat ceremony. I remember the reaction of my wife back in 1998 when I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to a medical school in Grenada." And she's like, "Where the heck is Grenada?" I was like, "Well, that's a good question." We actually had to get an atlas. You know, they're bound and they have pages. We didn't have Google Maps or Google Earth. So, but before I knew it, we were, I was accepted and off we went. Back then we had a 6-month-old child who is now 17. And I drug my family halfway across the Western Hemisphere to a tiny island in the southernmost Caribbean. But it was amazing, and like I said, in 4 short years, they helped me realize, this Oregonian, 25-year-old at that time, my dream to become a doctor. So, but again, I do remember sitting in your shoes, being wide-eyed and not sure of what's next, and I couldn't even fathom what I was about to embark on. And trust me, neither will you. Well, I'm happy to report that SGU delivered on its promise and in a big, big way. My life was forever changed, and so will yours. Our experience in Grenada and throughout the clinical program stretched and challenged me like nothing I had experienced before. The richness and depth of your learning are second to none. The patient rounds, your work with senior physicians, all made up for an experience that literally made me into a doctor. I still think of bits and pieces of anatomy and biochem and pathophysiology and pharmacology, not to mention ethics and how this is all bundled together and how I treat my patients. It's truly incredible. It really was. But I don't want you to misread my enthusiasm because there were some challenges along the way. The rigors, the demands were some of the toughest days of my life, but also the best. Even though my wife and I had our share of struggles, we now look back at those days as some of the best times in our marriage. And we had no money. No money, just each other. And again, those times together were rich and brought us close through the adversity we faced. So my goal today is just to give you a few recommendations just to navigate these days and years ahead. My first recommendation, hopefully is pretty easy, is just be present. Just sit back and enjoy this very moment today, right now. This very event, the speaker you're about to hear. Please live in the now. I know you're all tempted to be thinking about your classes, or some of you might be having flashcards in your pocket, I'm not sure, but learn from my mistakes. Often I would say to myself, or yearn about what will life be like at the next point, the next phase, the next level. What about cadaver lab? What will life be like? What specialty will I choose? Where am I going to practice? How am I going to pass the boards? On and on and on. Don't get me wrong. These are all important questions that, yes, you definitely need to address. This is a lesson I wish I learned much earlier in my journey, and I was too tempted to look beyond or to see what was next. And I hate to say I may have missed some valuable experiences and memories if I had just stayed in the present. And this is not only a good lesson for you to learn, but also for your patients, your future patients, the ones that you will be establishing a relationship with. They want a physician who is present, not distracted, who is engaged and wholly focused on them and nothing else. So please, learn this skill now. You'll be much farther along than I was. My second recommendation to you is this. Find joy in all that you do. Find joy in your studies, your classmates, your professors, your future careers, and most importantly, find joy in your patients. Without joy, your life will be so much harder, so much heavier, and will be a struggle for you, your families, your loved ones, and unfortunately for your patients. I can't tell you how many docs I come across that simply lack joy. Don't get me wrong, these docs are good at what they do, some of them being regional and national experts in their specialties, but they lack the joy that I think is so important. I can't tell you how to get this joy. That's something you need to find on your own. It's partly a mixture of attitude, ability to put others above yourself, your general outlook on life, but once you find it, hold on to it, share it, compliment those around you. And again, I just want to quickly share with you my joy of what I have in my specialty, being an anesthesiologist. I absolutely love and enjoy my job. You see, anesthesiologists are faced with significant challenges when it comes to their relationship with their patients. Instead of taking years to get to know my patients like my colleagues in family practice or internal medicine, I often have just a few minutes to kind of establish this bond. But I love this. I find joy in this because I love winning their trust in just a matter of minutes before I wheel them back to surgery. So I can't imagine doing anything else. So how do I get these patients to trust me and feel the joy that I have for them in my specialty? Well, I was present in their world for those few precious moments I had with them prior to rolling back to the operating room. And I have good news. Guess what? I know that all of you will choose a specialty that brings you joy. I know it. I absolutely know it. And I can't wait for you to share that with me if and when we see each other again. So my last point, my last recommendation to you is being grateful. Gratitude, gratefulness. This is my last piece of advice before I finish with you today. Such a simple concept, but not easily executed. Being thankful, I think, requires intentionality. Okay? So here's a quick challenge. You don't have to do this out loud, but look at your classmates, look at those next to you, and just be thankful for them. Be thankful to those next to you. In the coming days, weeks, years, these individuals will push you, they'll challenge you, and they'll walk alongside you as you embark on this journey. But guess what else they'll do? They'll help you, they'll encourage you, they may feed you, house you, and care for you. So be grateful. Be grateful, starting right now, in the present, by looking at your peers in this context. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Gratefulness knows no bounds, and it can get you so far in your career, in your relationships, in your life. Thank your nurses, thank your unit clerks, thank your lab techs, thank everyone who works around with you. And honestly, I thank my patients every single day. I thank them for allowing me to take care of them, and that really goes a long ways with those patients. So, just a quick story I'd like to share that actually happened just a few weeks ago. I have an office, and because I do a lot of administrative duties, our hospital is quite large. Sometimes there's just literally no time for me to run from my office to change in the locker room. So I have some scrubs in my office that I change in and out of between meetings. One day I came to my office and I saw a fresh stack of scrubs neatly folded on the shelf on one of my shelving cabinets. And I don't know why I was so moved by this, and that someone actually did this for me. Anyways, I didn't know who did this, but I left a note on top of the scrubs thanking this person and how the simple act of kindness was such a blessing to me. A few days later, I got a note back, like secret pen pals or something. And it was on my computer, and it thanked me for the note, and it said that he had never been thanked for his job before. So that's my point. I just want you to be grateful, okay? It's contagious. It just helps your life so much. So as I close, again, I just want to remind you to be present, to be joyful, and to be grateful. And if you add these three attributes to the journey you're about to start with, then I have my utmost confidence that you will find amazing success in all that you do. So thank you so much for letting me share with you, and I wish you all the best. All right, so now I have the pleasure of welcoming Ms. Beryl D'Souza. She's a plastic surgeon and an honorary clinical lecturer in plastic surgery at Imperial College, and is also a faculty development associate tutor and is based in Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. Hopefully I've got this all correct. She started off in biochemistry as a graduate of Chelsea College, University of London. This was followed by a Master's of Philosophy and Nerve Regeneration at the Royal College of Surgeons of England. And this prompted her to study medicine and is a graduate of St. Bartholomew's Hospital, University of London, and went on to specialize in plastic surgery. In addition to her educational achievements, Dr. D'Souza has been involved in numerous medical writings and publications, and is involved with many honorable societies such as the Medical Women's Foundation. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Beryl D'Souza.
Thank you, Matthew. Good afternoon. Dear distinguished faculty, fellow physicians, guests, I want to welcome and congratulate the students and especially their families who have supported and helped these students for so many years in obtaining their goal of entering medical school. I'm truly honoured to be given the opportunity to give this lecture at such an important ceremony. My plan today is to talk a little bit about Arnold Gold, who founded the White Coat Ceremony, talk about Hippocrates, the father of medicine, followed by a few thoughts for you on embarking on a career in medicine for myself, with a few personal anecdotes, examples of my own career. We've heard a little bit already about the Arnold Gold Foundation, so I'll just summarize a little bit about the man. Apparently, from what is written about him, he was a soft-spoken, distinguished-looking man who was highly respected both by his colleagues as well as by his patients. He believed that students should take the oath when they begin medical school, following the model of Hippocrates, who administered an oath to students when their medical studies began. They should be given well-defined guidelines regarding the expectations and responsibilities appropriate for the medical profession prior to their first year of class, as it is during medical schools that the students experience the initial contacts with patients and establish their professional identity, not after the studies are completed. The White Coat Ceremony is unique to the American medical schools. We don't have anything like this here in the UK medical schools. And maybe there is a lesson to learn, and that's something we should be thinking about over here. Historians agreed that Hippocrates was born around the year 460 BC on the Greek island of Kos. Medicine of all the arts, he said at the time, is the most noble, but owing to the ignorance of those who practice it and of those who inconsiderately form a judgment of them, it is far behind all the other arts. Hippocrates was mainly a physician and believed in the healing force of nature for the body to heal itself. But it was interesting in that he prescribed a diet from barley with water or honey and vinegar. He did carry out surgery. He incised abscesses, operated on the skull for head injury. He actually advocated that if one were to perform surgery, they should practice all sorts of work with both hands. This is something I was told when I embarked on my career in surgery. I'm left-handed, and I was told by both my right-handed tutors and my left-handed tutors I should learn to use my right hand as well. He ascribed surgeons to endeavor to do it well, elegantly, quickly, neatly, and promptly. The Hippocratic Oath, a seminal document on the ethics of medical practice, was attributed to Hippocrates in antiquity, although new information shows it may have been written after his death. While the oath is rarely used in its original form today, it serves as a foundation for other similar oaths and laws that define good medical practice and morals. Hippocratic medicine was notable for its strict professionalism, discipline, and rigorous practice. It recommended that physicians always be well-kempt, honest, calm, understanding, and serious. The Hippocratic physician paid careful attention to all aspects of his practice. I'll include his or her practice. He followed detailed specifications for lighting, personnel, instruments, positioning of the patient, and techniques of bandaging and splinting in the ancient operating room. I always had an idea that Hippocrates was not really a surgeon, and for part of my research for the talk today, I was quite impressed about his surgical sort of attributes. He even advocated that physicians and surgeons kept their fingernails to a precise length. And for the girls out there who want to be surgeons, start using all those nail varnish bottles now, because you won't get an opportunity to use them when you're embarking on a surgical career. Much to the dismay of my daughter, who laments about the fact that I don't have any nail varnish in my beauty cabinets. I'd also urge you, at some time in your career, to go and visit COS. We went there a few years ago as part of a family summer holiday, and we sat under the plane tree at the top of the hill in COS, and that's where it was thought that Hippocrates actually sat and taught the students. Now, for the students here, you're embarking on an amazing and incredibly important journey. It'll broaden your horizons, deepen your thinking, and add vast amounts to your storage of knowledge. It won't be easy, as you've heard already. If you're anything like me when I went to medical school, the next 4 years will bring a cacophony of emotions, bursts of elation, but also moments of discouragement, and the occasional passage where you feel completely overwhelmed. Let us ask, what is the role of a doctor? The latest International Labour Organization definition states that medical doctors diagnose and treat human physical and mental illnesses, disorders, and injuries, and recommend preventative action based on the scientific principles of modern medicine. They may specialize in certain disease, categories or methods of treatment, or assume responsibility for the provision of continuing and comprehensive medical care to the individual, families, and communities. The new consensus statement focuses not on values, but on the attributes and abilities that doctors need and the range of tasks they undertake. As well as supporting patients in making decisions about the care, doctors must be active in teaching the next generation of doctors, managing resources, and improving the quality of care. They must also be able to work in teams and must take account of finite resources in their decision-making, notwithstanding the primacy of the individual doctor-patient relationship. The consensus statement concludes that doctors alone amongst healthcare professionals must be capable of regularly taking ultimate responsibility for clinical decisions, and this differs from allied healthcare professions. The primary function of the doctor and the aim of medicine is to assist in the process of healing. Doctors do this by improving the quality of life, providing care, relieving suffering, promoting health, and preventing or trying to prevent illness and disease. This is because we are trained in the understanding of health and the mechanisms of illnesses and disease, and from this to provide effective and appropriate treatment. What sort of professional characteristics do doctors possess? Well, medicine is a vocation or a calling and implies service to others. This remains an important part of being a doctor. At my son's career evening a few weeks ago, two doctors standing in front of the audience of boys and parents actually started off their career talk by saying, "Okay, folks, you can sit down here and listen to us, but if you really want a career where you're going to make money, wait for half an hour and the bankers are coming in next." We sat down, but the queue for the next session extended beyond the library, so that was very interesting. Medicine is an art as well as a science and requires judgment and conviction and wisdom to make decisions with the patients in the face of uncertainty. Respecting the value of human life is important, and in addition to that, maintaining privacy and confidentiality of your patient. You also have to act as an advocate for the patient and the public health related matters. Medicine recognizes the doctor has a role as an advocate, a supporter, an agent of change, and as an educator. The knowledge base in medicine comes from the sciences, the arts, and social sciences. It is broad and constantly changing. And to a certain extent, that's what makes it exciting as well, because it becomes new. And I have to say, in other specialties, not a lot of change happens in the way it does in medicine. Setting standards and examinations is part of professional practice for centuries, set by the profession and is assessed by the profession. There is also the element of self-regulating and accountability to patients, clients, and the profession itself. The importance of teamwork and of recognizing the skills and expertise of others is very much part of being the profession. And I'd echo what Matthew says about being grateful and being thankful to the people who you work with. In my specialty, in the evenings, if we have to do work on out of hours in surgery, the most important person that will ensure that you can get your patient into theatre is the porter. And if you don't get to know the porter, and you might spend a long time waiting for your patient to come to theatre, and yet he's the most important, not the surgeon. And so knowing who the people you work with is important. I worked as a biochemist in my medical career, and when the doctors would come in the middle of the night and say, please will you get me my urea and electrolyte result on this patient, and they just sort of spend a few words talking to me about why they needed it so urgently, I felt part, and I felt I was being involved in this case, and I would make sure I did it very quickly, and yet it changed the perspective if someone came in an arrogant fashion and told me I had to get this sample done as quickly as possible. So learning how to be grateful and acknowledge other people around you. You might be embarking in your career as a doctor and you might feel yourself to be the most important person in the room, but there are others in there who also are fulfilling a very important job. The role of the doctor in society. The doctor is a citizen as well as a doctor, and therefore has an important role in society. Just to elaborate more, the doctor as an advocate, in this role, the doctor has a responsibility to put the case for the patient or the public, to stand up for them and to support their needs. In my role, I write to the workplace if my patient, and I tend to deal with hand conditions too, and sometimes patients want to be at work, but they find they can't do their work if they can't use their hand in the appropriate manner for the work that they're doing. And I feel just writing a simple letter to the employer, allowing them to do something else just so that they could rest their hand for a is important, and they appreciate that. So you stand up for your patient and they want you to. The doctor is an educator. In addition to having the role as an educator, a teacher of students, there is also responsibility for education of the patients, the public, and more importantly, the politicians. What we need to do now is to ensure that following a report in medicine, our regulatory bodies, we know that doctors who are investigated are vulnerable. I was speaking of a lunch about the report that came out from our regulatory body here in the UK, the General Medical Council, that doctors were more vulnerable, and there was a suicide rate. 28 doctors committed suicide over a period of 5 years, and that was very sad, and because these doctors were being investigated. And maybe, as part of the recommendations from this GMC report that came out in December, there is a need to develop resilience training in medical school, and resilience training for doctors. And that is something we will probably be embarking on here in the UK with all the Royal Colleges and with the GMC. The doctor is an agent of change. This requires the doctor to produce evidence and present it effectively to those who matter. However, it is part of professional practice, and whether it is changing the service, improving the quality of care, or developing new treatments, or improving the health of the public. The doctor in society, as a part of society, is it possible to separate out the doctor from that of the professional? For examples, do the standards of behaviors of doctors in their professional role differ from that of their private role? That is something to consider. Do we expect the standards of the behavior of doctors as people to be greater than that which we would expect from the public generally? Doctors as leaders. In many instances, doctors are expected to assume positions of leadership, and some preparation for this is essential. And I would urge you, as you go along your career, to look up how you can attain leadership positions, how you can prepare yourself to lead, and look for resources out there to help you. Because realize that instead of sitting behind a desk, as other professional specialties will be doing, your colleagues in other professions, you will be standing in front of a patient's bed. Instead of a pen and paper, you will be holding a stethoscope. You will be learning from the patient, a living, breathing educational tool from which you will learn a great deal. In addition to factual knowledge, you will learn skills: how to interview a patient, how to examine a patient, and how to analyze information and decide on a plan of management. But more importantly, you will learn how to be the patient's advocate, which is the most noble task you will be ever given. Because the patient is not only an educational tool, the patient is a person in need that you're going to help. He or she is a person in a state of weakness that you should support. He or she is a person in pain that you should comfort. And he or she may be a person in fear that you should try and reassure. So how are you going to cope? And who is going to heal you? I wanted to offer some thoughts about a mindset, and that is optimism. This involves determination, courage, and action. You need a positive outlook. You've already elaborated on that as well, and a balanced assessment of the situation at hand. It is known that people who make lasting contributions to the world share the same attributes: the engagement to recognize when something important needs doing, and the unswerving faith that it can be done, and the actual willingness to try and do it. The other traits that bear well for success in medicine and life: resilience, remain focused on achievable goals, and develop the firm conviction that overcoming failure is what paves the road to durable and meaningful success. Challenge, even one that first may seem insurmountable, see it as an opportunity. Use it as an opportunity. Keep listening to that positive voice inside you. Achieving, it isn't enough to want to accomplish something. You must have to be equipped to do it, and you have to learn how to equip yourself. I firmly believe that the more you really know, the more you really realize just how much more is out there. View your career as a journey, not just a final destination, because then you will learn from that journey. I'm just going to finish off by giving 3 little stories that I've sort of picked up from my clinical career thus far. I'm very flattered because I'm not at the end of my career, and some of your previous white coat speakers have been very senior people. So I've still got a little bit more to give to medicine. So these are my stories thus far. One is from my time as a medical student at St. Bartholomew's Hospital a long time ago. On my first medical firm, and this was in the hematological oncology ward. So I was subjected to having to see patients and work with my consultants on leukemias and lymphomas. And this is where I learned about communication styles. One was from a very brisk and upfront clinician, and another was from a kindly clinician. Two different ways of telling a patient they have cancer, two different ways of telling a patient that they're going to die, and there was not much that could be done for them. We were all assigned a patient on the ward, and my particular patient had received treatment but had not responded, and he didn't have very long to live. But every day when I went to speak to him, he would speak to me and would make time for me, although he used to be very tired. And I learned a lot from him, and he was one of my first patients on the sort of medical ward. He subsequently died, and at the time in my medical school, we had lunchtime post-mortems, and we used to learn from them. And I actually went to my patient's post-mortem, and I was horrified, having seen the man, spoken to the man, and here I was standing in the post-mortem room looking at the disease that ravaged his whole body. And it struck home about the disease process and the spirit of the human being. Another thing I'm going to talk about is about complications. I'm a plastic surgeon. We're the elitist of the elite in surgery. And so we don't like failures. And my first complication was a major case. It was a surgical case. And I was distraught because up to then, no one had ever spoken to me about complications. And my consultant, who had the unfortunate name of being called Mr. Carver, he sat down with me. And he was not a great communicator, didn't really like speaking to patients, quite like just getting on and doing the surgery. And he just turned around to me and said, you know, if you don't have any complications, it just means you're not doing enough surgery, so get over it. And that was all he said, and I actually sort of sat down, but it meant a lot to me coming from him. And it took me and gave me the courage to go on to do the next case. And I learned from the case. And that was something else he said, you've got to learn from it. And I thought, well, why did I get that complication? And it was that inquiring mind that actually paved my way for research, clinical research in surgery. So every time there's a problem, I want to know why the problem occurs and how we can prevent the problem. Our specialty is unique because every day we invent new operations. If you Google facelift, you'll find there are about 500,000 hits. And why is that? Because there are 500,000 ways of doing a facelift. And that's why I like my specialty, because we can be quite artistic and innovative in what we do. And it probably does make way for the arrogance which comes with our specialty, which is bad. But that's the reason why I like my specialty, not because the change is there on a daily basis. So we're always striving for a better operation, for fewer complications for our patient. The last story I'm going to tell you is about a patient, a young boy who was brought to my hospital. And at the time I worked at the Royal London Hospital, which is a huge trauma centre, which has, it was at the time a Virgin-sponsored helicopter on the roof of our hospital that used to bring in major injuries from the motorways. And this young boy was run over by a lorry, and both his legs were damaged. And so we worked with the orthopedic surgeons to try and save both legs. But unfortunately, the orthopedic surgeons felt that he needed an amputation, so but one leg could be saved. The problem was that the leg that could be saved needed immense soft tissue cover, which would have meant more incisions and the loss of tissue in order to provide cover over the bone. On the day of surgery, because we made the decision that we'd have to amputate on the one leg, and then we also had to make the decision about removing more tissue, healthy tissue. Say from his back, there's a big muscle at the back. It's called the latissimus dorsi muscle. It's used very much in climbing. We did not really want to sacrifice this muscle in order to cover the defect that he had in his leg. And at the time, we had to make decisions, and I persuaded my boss on that day to let us salvage the tissue amputated leg, because it would give us more thinking time before we sacrificed the latissimus dorsi. And it was a decision I made because I thought it would be something that the parent we were operation should do on very well years, because he wanted to bring straight a contribution to you, past, and full ambassador. Never forget that your medical career and practice will always be a privilege as well. Your presence here demonstrates a core principle of needing to learn and needing to improve. The challenges in medicine can seem so daunting and overwhelming, but it is in fact, a gift for your lifetime. There is the need to always learn, improve, and research. This is unmatched in any other professional endeavor. And so there is less likelihood for physician burnout because of the variation and the variety that you have in this career. The most important message I would like to convey today is to encourage all of you to consistently and persistently strive to be better in all facets of your patient care. Nearly everyone you deal with in your future is relying on you to do that. What will your patients do for you? They will help train your mind, body, and spirit. They will cause you to understand the weight of responsibility that comes with this profession. Treat them with respect and kindness, just as you would like to be treated when you are a patient. They trust you with their lives, and you have to earn that trust. Work each day to be the best for them, and you will be better yourself and be fulfilled. I wish you the very best of luck in your career. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those inspiring words. Now we're going to welcome each of you to the medical profession of St. George's University School of Medicine, and we'll be presenting you with the white coat, symbolizing your entry to the profession and your commitment to uphold the duties and trust associated with medicine and medical training. I would like to introduce you to our robers, along with myself and Ms. Beryl de Souza, fellow physician, Mr. Steve Clark, Director of Cardiothoracic Unit at Freeman Hospital. We will now begin robing the students. And in recognition of our international enrollment, Dr. David Holmes, Associate Dean for Basic Science and Allied Health Sciences UK for the KBT Global Scholars Program, will call each student by name and state their country of birth. Please hold your applause until all students have been robed. For safety, we ask the audience to kindly remain seated. Thank you.
Amit Singh, Canada. David Chow, USA. Carissa Bowron, Canada. Matthew Onassis, USA.
Aisha Kalim Abdul, Canada. Fidel Okoye, Nigeria. Vanessa D'Souza, Canada. Joseph Andrew Martin, USA. George Roman, Canada. Anna Chen, USA. Stephanie Baptista, Canada. Lee Dickranian, Canada. Michael Liao, Canada. Nuvair Imam, Pakistan. Samir Sethi, Canada. Faisal Hussain, USA. Dan Devlin, Canada. Yasmin Oskuliar, USA. Vanessa Lauzon, Canada. Christopher Duan, Canada. Taylor Pierce, USA. Omar Fowle, USA. Devin Meritz Sekenti, USA.
Congratulations. All right, I'd like to ask all the students and all the doctors present to please stand and recite aloud with me the professional commitment listed in your programs. So please stand. All right, let's begin. Today is the beginning of my medical education and training as a physician. I acknowledge my responsibility to continue the pursuit of knowledge and understanding till the day I'm entering training for a noble profession in which my interests must always be subservient to my assistance. I must never fellow professionals and treat them with respect at all times. My classmates and All right, please be seated. So on behalf of SGU, I would like to thank the Arnold Gold Foundation for the Humanism of Medicine pins placed on each student's white coat. Thank the students, faculty, SGU faculty, staff, administrators for all your support. I know a lot goes into putting one of these together, and you did an amazing job. I would like to cordially invite all of you to attend our reception and escape in honor of the recipients of white coats today. So thanks again for coming. I ask that you please be standing as the Deus Party exits, followed by the students. Thanks so much.